Good morning to the regular meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We'll also be sitting as all special taxing districts. This is the May the 2nd, 2022, 9 a.m. meeting. Board members can attend either in person or by telephone or remotely via electronic conferencing. All of us are here, so this is the call to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we all ask Supervisor Lyons to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance in English, not Spanish.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For those of you who do not know, Supervisor Linus just came back from Spain, so I had to remind him, no Spanish for a little while.
It was for work.
Yes, it was work-related. He spent time eating seafood, work-related seafood, I see.
It was.
All right, well, let's move on. The next item on the agenda is call to the public, and call to the public is held for the public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified in the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to direct to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. The email forms of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read aloud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9. I'd like to begin by asking Desiree, do we have any email comments that we need to read for the record?
No, we do not.
All right, then I think, have one speaker form, and you don't necessarily have to file a speaker form, but normally that allows me to introduce you. If the item is not in the agenda, if it's in the agenda, I'd rather wait until it's in the agenda. This doesn't seem to be. This is called to the public, and it's Gail Castriconi from the Avenue B and C Colonia. Gail?
Good morning. I'm Gail Castricone. I reside at 3788 West 18th Place. I'm here on behalf of the Avenue B and C Colonia. The paper that I have given you is 16 years old, but it is one that will help you to understand that it's the same as I would have written out for today. Mm-hmm. So our Butterfly Project mission statement is the same as that. It says communication plus education plus involvement and that equals a safer living environment. And your mission statement is the Yuma County government is dedicated to providing customer-focused services to enhance the health, safety, and well-being and future of the entire community. Statistics, this is on your paper, statistics show mobile home parks that are properly maintained by owners, managers, or residents that are not properly maintained by owners and residents become attractive places for crime elements to hide. Yuma County law enforcement has been increasingly aware of escalating crime in some mobile home parks. Cooperation between residents, managers, and owners is the best way to prevent these parks from becoming havens for crime. Therefore, a plan has been devised to bridge communication barriers, conduct education on the law, and teach crime prevention to help owners, managers, and residents of high-crime mobile home parks that make their communities safe places to live. So as you know, this applies to the Avenue B and C Colonia 16 years later, and we've been advocating for that. We are talking about the band trailer park and others, but the band trailer park is it's disgusting. It's the band trailer park. It used to be owned by other people years ago. They kept it pristine, and over the years, and so I'd encourage you, if you want to see what I'm talking about, go to May Avenue and 5th Street and drive to the end of it, or Vaughn Avenue, I'm sorry, and drive to the end of it.
I know that well. That's where I grew up for 5 years.
Well, welcome to our community. Now, so maybe hopefully you have passion for our community. So anyway, what we're concerned about is that we continue to have the same problem with that park over and over and over, and law enforcement is aware of it. We have been very active about calling in, texting, doing, filling out paperwork on it, and it's to no avail. We literally, from my family home, can see drug dealings going on. Like I said, if you actually saw it, this is the United States of America. This is not a third world country, and this is something that should be addressed, in decent amount of time. And I'm not blaming anyone. We're starting over with our BNC Colonia project. We want new beginnings, and so I will close with this. It says, this is a quote from Bob Riley. It says, "Tolerating evil deeds leads only to more evil. And when good people stand by and do nothing while the wickedness reigns, their communities will be consumed." God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And that is always a reminder that there's always work to be done. In some place in Yuma County, it doesn't matter. The county is quite large, and there are some segments of the county that are sort of surrounded by city properties. They've been around for a long time, and unfortunately, they don't have all the services that the city has, and the county is quite large, so we cannot strive to have as much law enforcement presence, as much emergency management presence, as much services as the city can provide. It's just, technically, it's almost impossible to do at the county level. We're not designed that way. Counties are by nature rural, and rural by nature means less services. So it's always appreciated when someone from that area takes a special care and pays attention to the area and brings us those issues, which we'll try to solve as much as we can. Thank you, Gail. All right, this next item, I'll leave the open to the public section open throughout the meeting so that we can always have someone that wants to make a presentation or comes in a little later can still do it. So we'll move on to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. And during this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment, and no legal action will be taken. First of all, we have a presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
Emergency Management held a boom training for first responders. Find out what items are no longer accepted at Yuma County's transfer sites. And Public Works celebrates Work Zone Awareness Week. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Emergency Management, in partnership with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, held a 2-day training designed to teach first responders how to respond to an oil or gas spill. Agencies from California, Arizona, and Mexico gathered at this unique exercise. Dozens of local, state, federal, and tribal entities came together to focus on operational coordination and communications.
When the call comes out, we're going to all need to respond and work together. So having the industry, having our first responders, and then actually having the equipment available to us to work with. They train on a regular basis, but this is just one where we can bring everybody together.
Industry professionals provided classroom and hands-on training advice to participants. First responders used boom equipment during the hands-on portion to prevent an oil or gas spill in the Colorado River, making them better prepared. For more information on trainings offered, visit yumacountyaz.gov. You can find them under the Government tab. We'd like to inform you that Yuma County transfer sites will no longer accept a few items. The Arizona Department of Environmental Quality has recommended that county transfer sites stop accepting these items. This is due to the fact that there's no equipment on site to detect if the sand or soil has been contaminated with fuels, oils, or other chemicals.
The closest location to dispose of those items would be South County Landfill. That's on 1E. They do have the resources to be able to detect any contamination. There is a charge for those disposal fees, but that's what the location would be.
Please check out the county's website for more information on hours and items accepted at county transfer sites. Our Public Works Division recently celebrated National Work Zone Awareness Week. This annual spring campaign, held at the beginning of construction season, encourages safe driving through highway work zones. During the week of April 11th, National Work Zone Awareness Week was observed in Yuma County. The public awareness campaign aims to help everyone understand that we all play a role in keeping motorists and roadway workers safe. Safety classes, radio interviews, forklift training, a Wear Orange Day, and a moment of silence were all a part of the week-long observation. A mock work zone crash demonstrated why we all need to be aware of work zones. The key message of Work Zone Awareness Week is for drivers to use extra caution in work zones.
Hi, my name is Mary, and this is your Health Watch. May 31st is World No Tobacco Day. The purpose of this campaign is to raise awareness about both the environmental impact and health risks of smoking tobacco. According to the World Health Organization, the tobacco industry and tobacco smoke contributes to negative impacts in the environment that affect ecosystems, land use, and pollution levels. On the health front, smoking harms nearly every organ of the body, causes many diseases, and reduces the health of smokers in general. Secondhand smoke contains more than 7,000 chemicals and can contribute to similar health risks for non-smokers. Quitting smoking lowers your risk for smoking-related diseases and can add years to your life. The Arizona Smokers Helpline, Ashline, is a resource available to help you quit. All services are free and available in English and Spanish. For more information, call 1-800-556622.
We'd like to take a moment to congratulate the 2021 Yuma County Employee of the Year, Superior Court Employee of the Year, and Safety Excellence Award winner. During our annual Employee Appreciation event, held during the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the 2021 winners of their respected categories were announced. The 2021 Yuma County Employee of the Year Award went to Joshua Tesoriero with the Public Defender's Office. The Superior Court Employee of the Year Award went to Edgardo Gonzalez with Adult Probation. And the Safety Excellence Award winner award went to Monica Montag with the Public Fiduciary. Congratulations to the winners as well as all of our nominees. Before we go, another department has vacated our 197 building on Main Street. The Yuma County Assessor's Office has officially moved into their temporary location, joining the Treasurer's Office. The Assessor's new address is 2550 South 4th Avenue, right next to the McDonald's. Thank you for joining us for this County Line. We'd like to know of any story ideas you may have, so let us know. And if you're looking for stories we've covered in the past, log on to our website at yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. We'll see you on the next County Line.
All right. That takes care of the presentation of the county line. So we'll now move on to the proclamations. And the first proclamation is proclaiming the May the 1st to the 7th, the week as Professional County Clerks of the Board Week, and that will be done by Supervisor Line. Supervisor.
Professional County Clerk of the Board Week. Whereas the office of the County Clerk of the Board is required by Arizona Revised Statutes as an appointment by the let me start all over again. Se lo puedo decir en español mejor. Sorry, I've been talking in Spanish for 2 weeks, so. Whereas the office of the County Clerk of the Board is required by the Arizona Revised Statutes as an appointment by the Board of Supervisors and is a time-honored and vital part of the local governments throughout the nation. And whereas the office of the County Clerk of the Board provides the link between citizens, local governing bodies, and government agencies at all levels. And whereas county clerks of the board have pledged to conduct affairs of their office in a manner that should be above reproach, which merits public confidence and trust. And whereas the office of the county clerk of the board records and preserves what is true and accurate, and whereas county clerks of the board continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of their office through participation in educational programs and annual meetings of their state, county, and international professional organizations. Now therefore, in recognition of the leadership, innovation, and valuable service provided by the Arizona County Clerks of the Board, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim the week of May 1 through 7, 2022 as Professional County Clerk of the Board Week.
Chrissy.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes and members of the board, Susan, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak to the Clerks Week that is, as stated in the proclamation. I wanted to just point out a couple of things. As stated in the proclamation, the Clerk of the Board position is required by statute, but it is the only position that is not an elected position. A lot of people are not aware of that. I think maybe most of you are, but members of the public probably are not. In Yuma County, the county administrator, Susan Thorpe, holds the position of clerk of the board. And then we have two deputy clerks. I am one, Desiree is the other. And so we are a tag team and help each other get all the statutory requirements done. Some of the more important things that we do as clerks of the board and deputies is we're the record keepers. We record the records of everything the Board of Supervisors does, everything that happens in the county officially. We keep the records for all of those. And that is governed by Arizona state statute. And we keep those records in compliance with the Library and Archives retention schedule. So some records are historical and they last forever, such as the minutes and the resolutions. Others have various retention schedules. So that's kind of a big job, keeping up with all of that. I mentioned this last year when we had our Clerks Week, but the statutes reference the Clerk of Board in just under 200 statutes. So that kind of speaks to everything that the Clerks of the Board are involved in. And a couple of years ago, the Arizona County Clerks Association did some research in the statutes. And this is, I don't know, maybe almost a quarter of an inch of paper. And it's just a list of all the statutes that at that time, the Clerk of Board was referenced into having some kind of responsibility for. Of course, legislature enacts new laws all the time, and there may be more by now. We haven't done a recent research since then, but I wanted to speak briefly about the Arizona County Clerks Association. We hold conferences at least annually, and we try to do them biannually as we can. It's one of our methods for continuing education of the clerks and the deputy clerks. As I mentioned, statutes change, and that's a good way to keep up on the statutes, even though we try to do it throughout the legislative session too. The Clerks Association several years ago created a clerks professional certification program. And that we had our first people that received their certifications, received them during the County Supervisors Association meeting here in Yuma in October of 2018. I was one of the first that received that first bunch of certifications, and that is another really good process for learning, continuing education, and also bringing in new clerks and new deputy clerks into their education process and giving them an opportunity to get their certifications. I believe the Clerks Association was established sometime around 1996. That was my first participation in the Clerks Association, and I have been very grateful that the county has given me the opportunity to be involved in that group. It's a very professional group, but we have come to call ourselves a friendship group as well, because we are all just very helpful to each other, and it really has become a friendship group. They are a great resource for learning and support and encouragement. Times can get tough trying to keep up with everything, so that's pretty much it about the Clerks Association, and I thank you for my ability. And
Susan, you kind of come up and pick up the proclamation, you and Christy? Yeah, you and Christy, let's do this.
Because you are the clerk.
You are the clerk and they're deputy clerk.
What about the other deputy?
Maybe Desiree can come up.
Come on, Desiree.
We have two deputies.
Get in here.
You can pause for a second.
You know, we don't get a chance for one of them that often, so. Fortunately, we're not negotiating like salaries or anything. Yeah, and I personally want to thank him. I mean, you know, part of you guys running the show well is that we don't have to worry about anything. It just seems automatic that everything happens, but I know somebody has to do it, so.
Mr. Chairman.
We try. Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you guys want?
Thank you, Liz. Oh, yeah.
We better, you know, honor them.
She ran away too quick.
She did.
Yeah.
Susan did too.
Everybody was trying to get away.
Pásale por Jess.
Si no, no puedes aceptar.
All right, moving on to the next proclamation. The next proclamation is Economic Development Week in Yuma County. I know Julie Angel is here, and Alejandro Figueroa is also here, so they will be present to receive the proclamation. This proclamation will be read by Supervisor Porches. Hold on.
Sherman proclaims May 9th to the 13th to 2022 Economic Development Week in Yuma County. Whereas economic developers promote economic well-being and quality for the communities by creating, retaining, and expanding jobs that facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. And whereas economic developers stimulate and incubate entrepreneurism in order to help establish the next generation of new businesses, which is the hallmark of the American economy. And whereas economic developers are engaged in a wide variety of settings, including rural and urban, local, state, provincial, and federal governments, public-private partnership, chamber of commerce, universities, and a variety of other institutions. And whereas economic developers attract and retain high-quality jobs, develop vibrant communities, and improve the quality of life in their regions. And whereas Yuma County economic developers work together across all cities, towns, and the greater Yuma economic development to benefit our communities. Now therefore, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim the week of May 9 to 13, 2022 to be Economic Development Week in Yuma County.
Well, the only thing left to be said, as far as I'm concerned, Julie, is that, you know, this job is not a job that happens overnight. And I know for a fact that we may proclaim it this week, but it happens all the time. You know, economic development is a constant job. It is a job of successes and failures that, you know, you may have 5 failures, but 1 success just makes up for all of it. And I know that I haven't, in my time, and I've been here for a little while, you know, I haven't seen anyone do as good a job as you, Julie, in running the economic development section of this community. And I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the board, on behalf of all of us. And I know that Alejandro brought a level of professionalism and brought a level of dedication to those particular issues that we didn't have before he came in. So I want to commend you both, and we're going to step down. And if there was money to be distributed, we would, but this is just a proclamation. We'll get to that a little later. So, yeah, you want to say, hold on. I think I need to let them say something. All right, so do you want to say anything? I'm sorry, I was just moving it along.
Thank you and board and Susan for the opportunity to serve Yuma County as the Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs Director, and also thank Ms. Engel here, who's the President and CEO of Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation, and her team, as well as the cities of San Luis, Somerton, Yuma, and the town of Walton for their partnership in economic development efforts.
And I before we go and turn this on, I also want to thank Kevin Tonnell and his team, because for a while they were the ones that, you know, were doing all this promotional stuff. And I know that it takes a team to get this put together. It isn't just about 1 or 2 people. It's about a team of people doing it. And sometimes the job falls into one and sometimes it falls into the other. But at the end of the day, as long as it keeps moving forward, it's a success, no matter what.
Maybe Julie wants to
Was Julie
speak.
going to say something, Mr.
Julie
Chairman?
gonna say
I'm moving a little closer to the end.
I just want to say you gave me a lot of credit. However, I am surrounded by wonderful team players, and that is the ones that Alejandro has mentioned. It has been, the last 5 years have just been a joy because we are working collaboratively. We're not having any turmoil. Everyone is on the same team. So it's been a real pleasure to serve, and we've overcome some very unusual times and still came out with some wins. So it is, and I would say the ratio is 10 to 1. For every 10 projects, there's one win.
Yeah. We won't talk about the other ones. But it is true. It is not an easy job, and it takes a special person to do it. You guys are well equipped for that.
It is 10 to 1. Yeah. Just like sales. Well, this is so nice. Thank you.
Supervisor appointed that and
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. My hands are kind of lotion.
Oh, as long as it's lotion.
Extra, I'm kind of dry.
Yeah, here. Just put on hand sanitizer. Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks everyone. Okay. Does this stay? No.
And last but not least, in terms of proclamations, we have the a proclamation that proclaims the month of May as Yuma County Nurses Month. And I know Diana Gomez is here. I haven't seen Maria here, but I know that
The rest are, yes, they
Diana
are.
Gomez is here. Kathy Ward, I think I saw her there. And
There's
Karina
3 of them.
Zavala, is she here? Yeah.
Yes.
Come up, and we will have Supervisor Lynn Pancrase read the proclamation. She will read the proclamation, and we'll wait until you say a few words, and then we all go down there at the same time.
Proclamation proclaiming the month of May 2022 as Yuma County Nurses Month. Whereas the nearly 4 million registered nurses in the United States comprise our nation's largest healthcare profession and were a critical part in our fight against COVID-19. And whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice of the registered nurses of this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing delivery of primary and preventative health care. And whereas the demand for qualified registered nurses serving will be greater than ever due to the current health crisis, aging of the population, expansion of life-sustaining technologies, and the growth of home health care services. And whereas, along with the American Nurses Association, the Yuma County Public Health Services District has declared the expansion of Nurses Week to the entire month of May as National Nurses Month with the theme, Nurses Make a Difference. Now, therefore, I, Marco A. Tony Reyes, Chairman of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 to be Yuma County Nurses Month, and ask that all residents of Yuma County to join me in honoring the registered nurses who care for us all, not just during this month, but throughout the year. I witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the official seal of the Board of Supervisors done at Yuma, the county seat, this second day of May, 2022.
That is a literal reading of the proclamation. But what's missing there is, personally, I think doctors get the title, but you guys do the work. And to me, without nurses, I mean, doctors couldn't do half the job they do, if not more. I happen to believe nursing is where the rubber meets the road. It's where most of these things happen, where most of the care takes place. And in reality, without nurses, we wouldn't have a health system at all. And to me, that recognizing you for a month is failing to understand that we need you each and every day of the year. So thank you very much for the work you do. We appreciate it. To me, it's a fact that when a hospital needs help, they'll like to get one doctor and 10 nurses if possible, because, everybody knows that the ones that keep everything rolling its nurses. So thank you very much for the job you do. Anyone, hey, wait. Anyone, have any comments? If not, we'll have, Diana?
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Thank you so much for your support. Again, nurses are essential and a critical part of, again, everyday bedside care. Most people are familiar with our clinical nurses, the people that provide bedside care, who are integral, again, to the functioning of our healthcare system. And nurses work in all sorts of settings. You're familiar with our public health nurses. They've had a more, you've seen them more in the community, but that's what we call community health. We also have school nurses, and we have them all making sure that our kids are safe in the school system. And then we can't forget all our nursing students who, again, I know I've said it before, but a great shout out to all those nurses, those retired nurses as well, everybody that stepped up during the pandemic and continues to step up and make sure they advocate for our community, not just for preventive health, but for overall wellness. So thank you so much. And Kathy and Karina, I think echo my sentiment.
Okay, let's go.
Oh, wow, that was it? I thought everybody was going to say something. He ran out.
Yeah.
He went to Spain and he used all the...
All right.
Oh, we have this.
Yeah.
Hey, Portia, stop pushing. It's not paranoid. You feel what I feel.
You stepped into that one, dude.
You think I'm paranoid?
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This is not psychiatrist week, is it?
Okay.
What do you think I have to go in first, guys? There's a reason. Right. That takes care. Hey, what? Where's the health department going? Where's the nurses going? We're gonna need some nurses later.
Back to work.
Gotta make a couple of appointments. They're gonna be tough. All right, we'll move on to, I guess it's the consent calendar and the following items listed. Let me see, just making sure. Yes. The consent calendar, the following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group, acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless the board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. There's 1 through 12, items 1 through 12. Does anybody want to pull any one of them?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept items 1 through 12.
I wanted number 8, just to talk about a helicopter, but it's okay. I don't see anyone from the sheriff's office,
Well,
so.
the sheriff is watching, so.
Yeah,
I know, that's why I wanted
He's
to-
listening.
Let's make him a little nervous by calling in number 8 and talk about, helicopters.
That was a
No.
really
He accused me of not
interesting.
being able to speak English.
Well, un helicóptero, pues.
Así
All
es.
right, so
It's a
1
no
through
cost
12,
thing.
let's not pick up anyone that
Mr.
we
Chairman,
don't
I'll
have
make a
to.
motion we accept items 1 through 12 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and second to approve the items as presented without any discussion of any items, including the helicopter. So all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And that goes to show the important things happen in the consent calendar. We will move on to discussion and action items where we're getting pretty close to the appointment, but I'd like to keep Russ here longer. So we're gonna move item number 2 all the way to the end. No, I'm just kidding. Let's take item number 1. County Administration, Public Health Services, Emergency Management, discussion and possible action regarding COVID-19 updates and activities. So the representative of the Nurses Association is back up here. She holds the title of County Health Director. So, Mrs. Gomez?
Good morning. So regarding our COVID news, we continue to see our cases go down. It continues to trend downward, which is good. We continue to see a steady vaccination rate. For reference purposes, we had 26 lab reported cases last week. And so we're going to see that ebb up and down. And again, that's just natural as we see the variants continue to evolve. We are waiting patiently for the pediatric doses to be approved. And so that's for vaccine for children under the age of 5. It looks like Moderna will be the first one to get there. The accrediting agencies are going to meet in June for approval. and then Pfizer should submit their data shortly after. So that was the last group that was still waiting on their vaccine. And again, we're hoping that that comes through by June. So they should be ready to go by the time school gets going. So that'll be nice. That was the last group that we're waiting on. So again, just want to remind people to continue to go ahead and take those precautions, continue to enjoy those activities and do them safely. And that is it. It's always good to report good news.
Mr. Chair, can I
Sure.
make a comment?
Supervisor.
I
yes.
went and got my 4th vaccine, and your staff and the staff that gave it, the staff that was there, and they were just so good and represented the county so well. So I just wanted to give you kudos. Thank you.
All right, I know that it's getting to a point where we may feel comfortable with what the situation is out there, so we may, if you feel like you need to spend the time better somewhere else instead of giving us the good news every time, you may want to tell me sometime later. But this coronavirus thing it's I think we see a light at the end of the tunnel, which may not be a train coming, but everything happening around the world at least tells me that what we need to get going on is preparation, more prevention than anything else. And I don't know, I was listening to a newscast over the weekend which talked about the fact that we don't have an early warning system of any kind, that if the number starts to go up, we find out sometimes a little too late because it's already here. So I guess my comment will go to just let's start preparing, because I don't think this will be the last time. And even if it is the last time, I like to think that we will be better prepared next time we deal with something like this. Okay?
Yes.
Anything?
Chairman?
Yes?
Not necessarily just with the COVID update, but also like to formally recognize the nurses who serve inside the Yuma County Jail and assist there as well.
And Tony Badia, who's hiding behind over there in the corner, hoping I don't call him in. Also, because emergency management has become a critical part of that team effort that it's needed to be able to deal with this emergencies. And I hope we'll be talking about building, we'll be talking about you'll probably end up getting that ban in a couple or 3 years, when you probably won't need it that much, but you will always need it. There'll always be. And I think if something was proven during this particularly difficult period is that if you go out where the needs are, you have a better chance of dealing with them faster than if you wait until they come to you. And I think that's been, to me, the hallmark of the effort that the county health departments put out over the last couple of years. You went where you were needed and you did what you had to do to make sure that, this was dealt in the proper way. So congratulations to you and your team, the nurses, the staff, everybody, because even the clerical staff have their job, and everybody did their job, and I think that we're lucky to have you all. Thank you.
And you kept all your hair through it all.
Well, that's something I don't want to talk about, but it's okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there no more questions? Thank you, Tony. Yeah. You look slim in that, normally the camera makes you look a little, bigger, but you look pretty slim in that. You got to give me the tip. All right, so we'll move on to item number 2, County Administration, action to interview applicant for the vacant position of Yuma County School Superintendent, followed by action to appoint an individual to the position. I do not know why we need to conduct an interview with Mr. Hurd. I'm sure that the county, the Republican Party, who was in charge of appointing this, and Mr. Jones, did a pretty thorough job. I see the information in front of us, and unless this is a mandated statutory thing that we interview the candidate, I don't know. Do we have to? Well, yeah, we will talk to him, but interview him, it's a full-blown process that I don't know. I don't feel like.
It's optional. We provided questions for you in case you did want to go through the
We've
process.
seen them. Okay, well, let me just say we'll follow the procedure that the board wants to follow. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Hurt.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to appoint. When do we have him come up and introduce himself and let us know a little bit? We know a little bit about you because your bio is pretty thorough, and we know that you've been vetted by the party that sent you the recommendation, and they only sent one, so they must be sure that you're the right person for the job, and who are we to say you're not? So let us know why you think you are. the best person for that job?
Well, I've got over 40 years in education as a teacher, coach, principal, assistant principal, associate superintendent. 7 years I was the first principal at Yuma Catholic and the first football coach at Yuma Catholic. Hired most of the personnel that was at Yuma Catholic when they started. So I've got a lot of experience in education from as a classroom teacher of 20 years all the way up through the administration process.
And he was also he also has the award of football outstanding AIA
football coach.
Yes, Hall of Fame football
In
coach.
Arizona.
There you go, in Arizona. Thank you.
The only
You
thing
know
we
I never
can't
forget.
ask is, how old is he? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Are you sure you want this job? It doesn't pay that well. But no, in reality, I am particularly pleased that the choice you guys made is pretty good. It's tough to replace the former superintendent.
Well, he did a great job, and he was there 20 years. So you're replacing somebody that was like an institution there. He'd been there for a long time and did a great job. Did a lot for that position and for the county in education.
Well, I mean, I think we said it earlier. I've said it some other time. Part of doing a good job is that we don't have to do much, and the job gets done, and it gets done well. And the less we have to deal with it, the better off the job that you're doing. So if you follow that, we will be happy for a long time, Mr. Hurt. I have nothing but kudos. I've heard nothing but good things about you and your background and what you've done before. So there's been a motion and a second, and unless someone wants to bring something up that we haven't thought of, we take it to a vote. Is that it? Thank you very much, Mr. Hurt. This is very tenseful, so make sure that you calm down because the vote might go different.
No.
There's been a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Hurt. Is there any discussion on this? If not, all those in favor signify by stating aye. You may want to take a roll call because this is going to be a tough one, right? Said five. It's a 5-aye thing. Okay, well, we won't take a roll call. Thank you very much. Thank the body for the work you guys did, Russ. Mr. Russ Jones is the chairman of the Republican Party, and Mr. Hurt was a great candidate from the beginning.
And those are the staff members at the county superintendent's office.
Yeah, okay. All right, if everybody's happy, we're happy. Thank you very much, and go forth and not multiply. Let's go. Human resources, discussion and possible action. We're going to wait until things move? For those of you who are sharp enough to catch that.
I did catch it. I caught it.
We both got it.
Yes, and we're over
All
here
right.
giggling.
Human resources, discussion and possible action regarding an option to create a board-appointed recruitment committee for public defenders, subject to open meeting laws, and appoint members. Felicia?
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Felicia Frauster, Human Resource Director. So I'm bringing to your attention as to what direction that you would like for us to move forward with. Historically, as you'll see noted, that the process for board-appointed positions is for the county administrator to lead the process, screen the candidates with assistance from Human Resources, select a group of professionals with expertise and experience in the appropriate field. We hold interviews. We then bring the recommendation of that individual to the Board of Supervisors at one of the Board of Supervisors meeting. And this is a process administration would be hopeful that you may consider, unless the board wants to make a different approach. If you decide to make a different approach and you appoint members to a board-appointed committee, then it's subject to all open meeting laws. So I'm here today to ask, what is your direction? What is it you would like for us to move forward with?
All right.
Oh, actually, if you take no action, we'll proceed as we normally do. So you don't have to take action.
Right, well, there was a reason why, particularly I brought it up. Most of the time when we go through an internal process, we end up with a second in command, which is not a problem because normally the second in command has been trained to take over when the first one leaves. But in a situation where, the name public defender comes into mind, I just wanted to have choices. And normally the process that you all go through sort of narrows it down to one person. There really isn't much of a choice. You just get one, right? Like we got the appointment from the Republican committee. And getting one is not a real choice. It's just a decision that's already pre-made. So that's why I wanted to have a process, to go through a process. It's not really counter to intuitive. I mean, it's not. It's just I'd like to have some choices. And even if we end up, not even, If we end up with the assistant that it's been groomed to take over, that is fine. But I like to have some choices, so I like to appoint a committee made out of a couple of board members and yourself, and even if it means open meeting law, it's okay. We all need to start operating as if everything we do here is open to the public anyway. So, does the board have any other? If you have other opinions, if you want to go down to the old way or do it the old-fashioned way, which is to let the staff, go through the process and give us a selection. I mean, we could actually ask them to come up with 2 and 3 candidates, not only one. But I like that, that to have that option of having a choice.
Well,
again,
I think that the public is more aware now than they have been in the past, and that anything we can do to promote transparency is the best way to go.
So a 5-member panel, 2 board members and three different members. I would suggest that Felicia be one of them, and someone in the legal profession. Do you guys have any particular choice that you can think of? Someone in the legal profession?
Someone from the county attorney's office?
Someone from the county attorney's office?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think it'd be appropriate someone from my office sit on that. You could have a member of the local bar sit in there, or 1 or 2.
Wow. Well, anyway, I'd like to suggest the county administrator from Somerton, Jerry Cabrera, just because he's so open to getting appointed to anything.
With the candidates that are in the mix right now, that would probably be a conflict of interest.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, how? I don't.
And Mr. Chairman, also, I know you mentioned Felicia being on your panel, but she's going to be there anyways.
So
we
she's
could
gonna
have
be
3
kind of
people over and over.
as it moves forward.
So you're taking all the choices we have made for the appointments, right? So that's what you're saying. We got to figure some people out there that don't know nothing, are not connected to anyone, have no conflict of interest with anyone.
Is bring back some recommendation. If you identify the 2 individuals on the board, then the county administration and HR can bring back some choices for you to pick the rest of the
You're
panel.
still making the choices. See, that's
For you to make choices for your last
all right.
3.
So 1 Republican, 1 Democrat, Mr. Porches and Mr. Lyons. Or, would that be okay?
Sure.
Right, those two are the 2 appointees from the board. I wanted you as part of that team. Now, whether you're gonna work with the team or not work with the team, I mean, I think you're gonna work with the team anyway. But if you don't wanna be a part of it, or if it becomes an issue, I don't mind, bring us 3. Or would you please come up with some names for the next time of appointees that I guess have nothing to do with anybody that's made an application, I suppose.
So Chairman Reyes, members of the board, if you would take in consideration that maybe you'd have representation, somebody from the legal defender's office, because they are the legal defender.
They will have a conflict of interest. That's going to be their boss.
No, they are 2 separate offices. Oh, okay. So you would have that, maybe someone from the Superior Court, because they work with the court. So, I mean, if you would take in consideration of that.
Well, why don't you just give us 3 names? I mean, give us 6 names and we'll pick, or if you guys have any name, just add it to the list and we'll make that decision at the next board meeting. Okay, but the idea today is that we will appoint a committee to review. 5 or 7 member committee, I don't have a problem with the number. Bring us some good names from good people and we'll pick the other 3 or 5. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that require a motion? Does that require a motion? Okay, well then the motion will be to appoint a committee to review public defender applications. The committee shall be made up of 2 board members and the other 3 or 5. It should be a 5 or 7 member committee depending on the number of people we appoint during the next meeting that we have. Is that good?
Yes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion.
A motion and a second to that effect. All those in favor of the discussion? No discussion? You want something?
And you're specifically appointing Mr. Porches and Mr.
Mhm.
Lyons as part of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. That takes care of item number 3. We'll move on to item number 4, which is county administration and grants. Conduct a public hearing regarding applications to Arizona Department of Housing for the Community Development Block Grant, funding for the fiscal year 2022 regional account, funding for 3 projects: Catholic Community Service Safe House expansion, Yuma County Foothills Multi-Purpose Complex, ADA Playground, Yuma County Owner-Occupied Housing Rehab, for fiscal year 2022-2023 state special projects, funding for one project, Yuma County owner-occupied housing rehab. And we would discuss that and then adopt resolution number 2022-11-11, authorization submission of application, and authorize the chairman to sign the application certification statements, disclosure reports, and all necessary forms for the application.
Well, good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Veronica Garcia with the County Administration Office. We are here today to conduct, like you mentioned, our public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG. This is part of a requirement from our funder, the Arizona Department of Housing, for public participation of the projects that we're going to be submitting our applications for the regional account and state special projects for the CDBG funds. As well as we will be adopting the resolution in order for us to submit the applications to the state. I just wanted to go over a little bit of, as far as the projects. We came to you before with these projects, with the prioritization of the projects. Today, we're just confirming the projects that we're going to be working with and submitting to the state. We do have available CDBG funding for a regional account of $617,600 in available funds. And we have prioritized the following three projects to submit to the state. The first one is the Catholic Community Services Safe House expansion. And we are proposing, as you all know, the COVID pandemic has affected, everybody in this world, basically. And the Safe House has not been an exception. The Safe House currently has a shelter with 10
units,
with 5 bathrooms. But CDC, with their guidance, required them to, or requested them to limit the number of people in these homes or in these rooms for the social distancing. So with this expansion, they'll be able to add an additional 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms to be able to accommodate more families and assist more families. Also, we're proposing to add a meeting room so that they can have a safer place for them to meet with the families that are in need of assistance of counseling. So that would be the Safe House expansion project. For project number 2, we are proposing to submit an application for an ADA playground at our Foothills Multipurpose Complex. The playground will be in the Foothills area where the Foothills Library is at. Adjacent to that, there's a land that we're going to be doing a park. So with these funds, we propose to purchase and install a playground, along with constructing ramps for ADA accessibility. And then for our third project, we are proposing to do the Yuma County Housing Rehabilitation Program to rehabilitate substantially one home. And so as far as funding goes, we have, and this is project plus administration, of course. For the Catholic Community Services, we estimate a funding of $245,000. For the Foothills Park ADA playground, we estimate $260,500. And for the Yuma County Rehabilitation, we estimate $111,516, so that goes to our $617. Also, we're planning on submitting an application for the upcoming CDBG state special projects, and that one would be for the housing rehabilitation program as well. And we plan on doing a minimum of 5 homes with this funding of rehabilitation. And it's a mixture of new construction or a reconstruction of a home and major rehabilitation of properties. So to be able to assist more families.
Okay, all right. So I just want, before we start with the questions. So I just don't want to forget how we got here, right? And I don't want it to be forgotten that the discussion on the Avenue B and C Colonia about the street lighting, the discussion we have over the Orange Grove and the possibilities of helping those areas out. One was a lighting district that, according to what we got, wasn't necessarily ready to go. But the desire is there to help them out. So I don't want to just simply drop them off the face of the earth and then deal with them 2 years from now without us doing some legwork on that. Both on the Orange Grove area, which we now see more into the ARPA money pocket or area than we see at the CDBG. The CDBG funds are relatively small funds, and they normally get to. But the main message that we got last time, at least I got last time, is that we need to start looking at how we make, how we do have an impact on some of the lives of these people directly. Some of the areas that we're talking about, like the Colonia area or the Orange Grove areas, or some of those other areas. For the last 20-some years, as long as I've been here, we focused on trying to get those funds into organizations that would support, that would be in those areas of need that we saw as general. It seems to me we need to, in the very near future, start looking at how do we direct those a little more, or how do we make them a little more directly impact the lives of people who we want to help in some areas that are county areas. Because essentially when we do something like the Catholic Community Service, we're doing it in the urban areas. I do see the projects in the foothills and the housing rehabilitation program as being able to reach out more out into the county areas. But sometimes when we pick the food bank or we pick Amberley's Place, we end up picking projects that, although have a great impact in the community, are sort of diffused. In other words, they're for everybody. And the city of Yuma has their own CDBG funds. The city of San Luis has their own CDBG funds. Somerton has their own CDBG funds. So maybe we ought to start thinking, okay, what do we do in the unincorporated areas with these funds, and direct them a little more to those areas. I just wanted to make that point, that I don't want us to lose sight of what was brought forth during this process. I'm going to open it up to the public after the question that Supervisor Pancrase has, and then we'll go through the process, but I didn't want that not to be part of the record. Supervisor Pancrase?
Good morning. Good morning. Have we taken into account the increase in building materials?
As of right now, yes. This is an estimate that was done by the Safe House or Catholic Community Services. We do plan, as contingency, we do have the administration funds if in case, the quotes, we do have to go out to bid and, go through all of that process. If our quotes do increase or go over our budget, we do kind of have a little leeway there on our administration side so that we can move over if in case they.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be my other question. There seems to be somewhat inconsistency in the percentage that we charge for administration to different projects. And I gather it's because every project is different. Some of them need a lot more hand-holding than others. Some of them are just simply, for example, if you buy a water truck, there isn't much follow-up that you need to do. But if you build, rehab a house, then there's a lot of work involved in rehabbing a house. I do understand that, and I hope that is the reason. And the other answer to that I hear is that, look, in some ways, that is the contingency account. So if there's a problem with those, meeting those goals and objectives, you can always pull a little bit out of administration, as long as we end up not saddling the county residents with, increases of the sort of inflationary type situations. I think you guys are doing a great job in terms of adapting to that. Like I said, I find it kind of a little odd that it's 90,000 here, 45,000 there, 35 here, 30 here, and the amounts don't necessarily, they're not necessarily a percentage of the amounts. They're different in each county.
Full admin funds are the 18% because the maximum percentage that the state allows is 18%. So, and that's why we did give a little bit more administration to one and the other, as you mentioned. Because
well, I'm going to open it up to the public, which is what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that wants to address the board on this particular issue? I mean, it hasn't gotten impacted yet. That's why, nobody is, but I suppose. No, the lighting didn't make it. I mentioned the lighting because it's something I didn't want lost in the process. The lighting is something that we would have to take a look and create, and it needs to be ready when the funds become available. It needs to be a little bit further ahead than it is right now. But it's something that I don't want the staff to forget that next year we'll be talking about, or 2 years from now when the cycle comes around, we need to be talking about projects like the BNC Colonia or anything else out in the Yuma County, out in the unincorporated areas where we can spend some of these funds directly on those areas. Anybody in the public? If nobody in the public has anything else to say, I'll move it back into the Board of Supervisors for the motion. The motion would be to, we conducted the public hearing. We adopt resolution number 2022, which is authorizing the submission of applications and authorizing the chairman to sign the application certification statements, disclosure report, and all necessary forms for the application. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, what do you need?
I just need to clarify that it's resolution number 2022-11.
That's right, 22-11, as presented in the board packet. All right, so the motion is to adopt resolution number 2022-11, authorizing the submission of applications, and in that motion is also to authorize the chairman to sign the application certification statements, the disclosure reports, and all necessary forms for the application to be made. Any discussion on this? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And that takes care of item number 4. We go to item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding options for long-term temporary facility for the Public Defender's Office as a result of the establishment of Division 7 to the Yuma County Superior Court. Dave Highland will make that presentation.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Dave Hilland, Yuma County Construction Project Director. Yes, as you mentioned, we were here this morning discussing options to relocate what we're calling a long-term temporary relocation for the Public Defender's Office from the historic courthouse. As you are aware, there has been a Division 7 established to our court system, and that's what's driving this need. The establishment of Division 7 of the courts creates a need to provide courtroom and office space for that division within the Justice Center. The plan then is to have Division 7 occupy the space that's currently used by Justice Court for Precinct 1 on the second floor of the Justice Center, and then relocate JP1 to the second and third floor of the historic courthouse where the public defender is currently located. And just a quick look at the plans for these areas. This is the second floor of the Justice Center itself. You see on the north end on the left side where Justice Court Precinct 1 is currently located. And you see this is also where we have Division 5, Division 6 courts. So this is where Division 7 would relocate to. At the historic courthouse on the third floor, back in the day that we had 2 large courtrooms in these areas, when the elevator and stairs were added, these were divided into 2 smaller courtrooms, and then over time, the east of the smaller 2 was repurposed in its current configuration, which is primarily, I think there's 2 offices and some break room and storage in that area. So the plan then is to reconfigure this space back to a courtroom, a small courtroom similar to what we have on the west side for courtroom number 2, to be used by Justice Court for Precinct 1. On the second floor, this is where the public defender's offices are currently located. There's essentially 5 separated areas here where their offices are. And the entire floor covers about 8,800 square feet of space. This is the area where offices and workstations for Justice Court for Precinct 1 would relocate to. So we are looking then at a good setup for the public defender's offices. This is what we've identified as being the needs for this space. Approximately 8,000 of the space is utilized a little bit more efficiently than what they have now. We think about 8,000 square feet would accomplish this. Approximately 24 staff, about half of those need to have spaces that have privacy, a closed door, and the rest can be in more open workstations. A large conference room or conference rooms, plural perhaps, a smaller room for their audiovisual equipment. And then of course file storage and general storage. And then the last one here, to put a little emphasis on this, that really do need to remain in as close proximity to the Justice Center as possible. Matter of fact, when I was meeting with Mr. Ray Hanna the other day discussing this, we were interrupted by our meeting by the need to immediately send an attorney into a courtroom, so that really kind of highlighted that need. The issue that we come into is that as we look in the neighborhood surrounding the courthouse, we were not able to identify, as of this time, one single location that meets these needs in close proximity. So then we start talking about how to divide this up and still make it functional. This is an overview of the area that we looked at, and I'm afraid my little red boxes don't show up too well. These rings start out at 500 feet away from the courthouse, which is located here, and then an additional 250 feet. So you can see, for example, just to give you an idea of distance, this is the administration building where we are currently, and this is right at that 1250, or about a quarter-mile distance away from the courthouse. So this is really the area we're looking at to try to keep them located. And there's about 7 or 8 different options that we explored. Ultimately came down to this area a little bit closer to the courthouse itself. And we see here, again, here's the Justice Center, the historic courthouse, and we have about 4 areas highlighted here that are under consideration and looking for direction from you as what seems to be the best fit. Number 1 is our current Yuma County Risk Management Facility at 145 South 2nd Avenue. Is largely unoccupied at this point in time. The second here is the former Camarena property. This is the property that the county purchased last fall. Two facilities. We'll look a little bit more closely at what that consists of. A little further away here is currently being used as the Hope Counseling Services facility. I believe as of yesterday that is now vacant and available for lease. And then across the way we looked briefly here at the Yuma Association of Realtors facility at 74 West 2nd Street. I will mention that this has been removed from consideration because of the fact that it's only available for purchase, not for lease, and the configuration is really not ideal for what we need space-wise. So looking a little bit more closely here at the first of these, the risk management facility, just a quick snapshot of the exterior and interior space. I would rate it as an average facility. It does need some upgrades. Overall, it's about 6,200 square feet. However, I've put an outline here around about 4,500 square feet or so that really is the most usable space inside of this. As you get into the eastern edge of the building, it'd be really difficult to work with. It's very tight, cramped quarters, and it would require a major expense to bring it up to any real standard. But this space does provide approximately 7 good office spaces, as well as some open workstation areas that could be utilized for this as well. Looking at the overall details, again, you see about 6,200 square feet total, but about 4,500 usable, 7 offices, 7 workstations in the configuration I just showed you. Of course, it is in very close proximity to the courthouse, less than 500 feet away. There is no parking specifically for this facility. The nearest is to the north here. There's a small parking lot to the east of adult detention that could be utilized.
The jail. Mm-hmm.
Yes. A positive is that it is currently connected. This is an important consideration to keep in mind. This building does have fiber. It is connected to the county's IT network. And probably some expansion would be required, but relatively minor. And then I've just provided, just based on some recently completed tenant improvement work that was done. This is what I'm calling a light improvement. What would be required, this is paint and floor coverings and that sort of thing to bring it up to something a little bit better than what's there now. So roughly $135,000 to improve that space and make it usable. That covers.
That
Yes.
area that you said is not usable unless we make some improvements on it.
The back part.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that necessarily off the table, making those improvements, or is it just the physical structure just doesn't allow for many improvements, even if they're expensive improvements to make? If we wanted to get another 1,000 feet out of that.
It is carved. So the sorts of things you're dealing with is right at this line here. I don't know if the building underwent an expansion or in which way it would have expanded maybe. It feels like you're getting older as you move this direction down the hall. The ceiling drops. It's a very low ceiling. It's carved up into very small spaces. The floor is elevated back in this area, so it's
Well, let me say, if there are small spaces, but you can knock off walls and make it decent spaces. For example, if you can make it the office of the public defender, whatever. I mean, is there something that makes those? I mean, I understand the fact that it's small and it's old, but can it be made bigger and newer?
Well, anything's possible. we could,
Well, I mean,
we could definitely improve what's there. Well, some of the challenges, even right in this narrow hallway right here, is where all of our telephone gear, electrical gear, and so on and so forth, that is kind of impeding in the hallway itself. So we can't really move, not easily. We were talking about a fairly major expense to relocate all the utility access points into the building. I'm actually showing this. There is a wall here that divides this into two tighter spaces, so I was showing this potentially being removed to make one larger office. So yes, the answer to your question is certainly we could improve it. How much of an improvement is...
What's the estimated time? I mean, what do we consider temporary?
That's difficult to pinpoint too. So all you've seen to date is a very high level conceptual plan for permanent construction of a facility for this office and others. No real solid plan has been determined yet, and no funding or anything else along those lines.
Let me tell you, our experience is moving into old buildings hasn't been that good.
No.
You know,
Tear 'em down and
so
start over.
you know, it's like opening up a Pandora's box every time we move into an old building. But I mean, the other choice is building something new in one of the other locations, or you know, another location that isn't obviously this. Now that would be the Camarena location to me. What could we do there? And that's you know, there's where I think we should be able to think about a building that's 2 stories high or something that gives us all the footage without all the problems of old buildings. But that's coming down the road. So when somebody talks about temporary, I'm thinking 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, that's what I think is temporary, 2 or 3 or 4 years. So if we can make this building at least house, you know, as much as we can of that, you know, that section of the county, you know, then I'm thinking, okay, well, what can we do to make that a 5,500 square foot facility that will be operational for 2 or 3 years? Or 4 years before we start building something else, because we don't build anything fast here.
What about the Camarena building? It has 2 buildings, correct?
Yeah, well, I think the Camarena.
As mentioned earlier, even if you expand this or are able to use the whole thing, it can't house the entire group. So there still need to be 2 buildings. So if you keep going, and the Camarena building is next, I believe.
Well, yeah, but the Camarena, you know, you have to think about permanent. So if you start using every building, every area that you have for temporary, then you don't clear anything for a permanent building. I was thinking, okay, well, can we put the public defender in that building, in another building, and leave the Camarena space for a new building? It's right in front of the courthouse. I mean, it's not easy, but I mean, we do own most of that corner.
Options ahead.
All right, we'll finish showing the options.
Let me show you the options. The Camarena property, which is now Yuma County property. So this is right across the street from the historic courthouse and the Justice Center, 217 South 2nd Avenue. Quick view of the front elevation as well as an aerial view. You do see the 2 buildings we're discussing. This is the westernmost, about 2,260 square feet of space, a little under 2,000 square feet on the east building. This roof right here is covered parking, so that is not building space here. Directly south of the legal defender, this is the legal defender's parking lot here to the north. A couple snapshots of interior space. This is an approximation of the floor plan, the existing floor plan of the east building. I've not been able to access all parts, but this is roughly what we're looking at. It's being used right now as 3 office spaces. The west or the north end here is 1 attorney's office. The center is another attorney's office. And then the far end is another business, these two rooms on the end. So again, kind of carved up into small spaces that would require some reconfiguration of that interior space. The west building, this is roughly what's there now. I have added about the only space that you have to add something like a file storage room right in the middle of the space. Otherwise, it's essentially 4 offices around the perimeter with a large room in the back that would probably best serve as a conference room. A couple of bathrooms here as well. On the north end, this is the bail bond service. On the main floor, there is a loft space. I don't recommend that being utilized for any kind of office space. I don't believe it really meets any kind of code requirement right now in its current configuration.
Is there a bail bondsman in it right now?
There is.
Okay.
Is the building next to this one, to the north, is that ours? The legal defender?
This space here?
No.
Legal defender's office is ours, yes.
So the whole corner is ours?
The whole block is ours, yes. If you, I guess well.
That's okay.
I go way back to here. That's this area here. So this is the Camarena Property Legal Office, so this whole block belongs to the county. The only difference is the Masons.
The Masonic, yeah.
Okay, right.
Okay, so again, just the quick details about the Camarena property. It is county property, 2 buildings. If you add it all up, we're seeing about 9 offices potentially in that combined space, space for 6 additional workstations, has that large conference room that we saw and plenty of storage. Of course, it's in close proximity. It does have 16 parking spaces, 8 of them covered, 8 not covered. It is also adjacent to the legal defender's parking lot. It is not currently on the county IT network. However, that would be fairly simple to resolve. I did meet with our IT team, and they said establishing a wireless connection would work quite well. We also have the possibility of extending the fiber that goes to the legal defender across the parking lot to these facilities as well. And again, just a quick light improvement estimate to bring those up to speed. The third option is the Hope Counseling Building at 201 South 1st Avenue. This is 1 block further to the east, directly across the street from the Gandolfo Building. It has a large parking lot of its own, about 20 spaces. And it is currently for lease at, they're asking $1.25 a square foot, which brings it about $4,500 a month. This is their fire evacuation map. So it gives you a rough idea of the existing floor plan. Again, a number of offices, however, it's carved up in quite small space. As a matter of fact, one of these has been removed already, and we'd want to knock down some additional walls to make the office space a little bit larger. I would call it a similar condition to the risk management facility. It would need some upgrading to make it passable. It does have a large meeting room, front reception counter here. I can see where we could fit as many as 7 offices in this space, a couple of meeting rooms. Again, it's still in close proximity to the courthouse, just under 750 feet walking distance. Has 20 parking spaces. It's not on the IT network, and this is a little bit more challenging here. We can go wireless here. However, that Gandolfo building, as we mentioned, is right in the path, so we'd have to go diagonally across to one of our other facilities and bounce the signal back. Again, I've been told that that's entirely doable. However, what is not really anything that we consider is installing a permanent fiber installation. Apparently, IT looked at that some time back and determined it was going to cost about $10 million to bring fiber down that street. So, but again, we can work wirelessly from this facility.
Right. Is it for sale or is it leased?
For lease.
You can't buy it.
He has not indicated an interest in selling.
I'd hate to put more lease improvements more money into lease improvements, but.
He did express a willingness to share the tenant improvement cost. That's why I'm showing about 1,800 square feet of cost.
All right, so all combined, you have the 8,000 something square foot that they needed, right? Oh, you got more options?
No, just a summary of the 3 that we've discussed. So option A, again, would be the using a combination of risk management and one of the buildings at Camarena Law, which would get us in the ballpark where we need to be space-wise. Combined total of approximately $200,000 in tenant improvement costs, and a rough idea of the time frame, late in the calendar year 2022.
What happens to risk management if we do that? I mean, is it?
They're not there.
Where are they? They're not there anymore, right?
No, our conflict administrator has an office in the building, as well as our pain relief therapist. We think that those could be
Move somewhere.
Move somewhere.
All right, okay, go ahead. Option A is that. Option B is
Option B is similar to
risk
is
management.
utilizing both buildings of the Camarena property. And then option C would be risk management plus that building at 201 South First Avenue.
Well, if we don't want to be moving the public defender temporarily to someplace, we need to find a permanent location for them to locate eventually. And by leasing a building like the Hope Building, I mean, you leave the other building, which is the Camarena Building, so that we can plan for something a little more permanent than this. Otherwise, we'll just put them in a permanent spot. That's where they'll be for years. Because as far as I'm concerned, if we can start planning for a permanent building for them, and it will take 5 to 10 years to happen.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, question 2. What are we going to do with this building once 197's built? We've got this entire 3-floor building.
There will be a number of conversations, I'm sure, to determine the best outcome. We're looking at a mid to late summer move-in into the new administration buildings of 2024. So a little over 2 years from now, this building would be available for whatever use the county thinks is appropriate.
And Hofstadter's.
Yeah, both this building and Hofstadter's would be assets that we could discuss what you want to do with it. But the idea, Dave, if you want to go to that slide that you have related to
the idea with the space, I mean, where they'll be and how far they'll be from the courthouse.
So based on your discussion, it does sound like the Hope Building and the risk management is the best choice because as shown here, the legal defender and
otherwise we use the Camarena Building. Those are 3 options. One.
No, I thought you said based on what we heard, what you heard from us, or what was your comment?
Yes, based on what I was hearing from the chairman, is you don't want to use the space that potentially will be the permanent location, which would include Camarena. So you want it. So the option of A, B, and C that meets that criteria would be risk management plus the Hope Building, while we would then tear down Camarena and build a public defender facility for permanent location, which is part of the draft master plan that Dave had presented before, and he's got it shown here, would include that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
sure.
Just I would not rather invest in someone else's building.
I agree.
And, improve it, and then for us to leave them. If we're gonna put in money, do it in one of our buildings, in the county's building.
So going back to a recommendation, go back to the recommended. So we were recommending, based on, without hearing the board's discussion, we were recommending having the county-owned buildings be the temporary location, and we'll just do our own tenant improvements. Then, when it comes time to actually build the permanent facility, we have this building and we have that Hofstadter's to move public defender once more and potentially legal defender while we build the permanent facility.
I thought you wanted to be next to the courthouse. I thought that was one of the main purposes. Eventually, you want it to be next to the courthouse. And eventually, this building and that building are the furthest buildings we have to the courthouse permanently. If we're going to put in the public defenders here, then they're going to be as far away from the courthouse as any of the buildings that we've got. And then we're going to have the management, the risk management building, and the Camarena building available to whatever for a permanent relocation. I don't see that as a plan that works. I would see buying the whole building would be a good option, and then making the improvements there, and then using the risk management in our own building to put these people in, because whatever we're looking at here, we're looking at 4 or 5 years down the road. I mean, we're looking at an administrative bill. This won't become available until late 2024. Okay, now we need to move those people now. So this is not really, this building or the Hofstadter building are not really options that are technically within the next 4 or 5 years to even begin to put them here permanently. And putting them here permanently, to me, didn't make any sense.
That was not clear. We're not putting them here permanently. So that if you'll go back to option B.
We're going to build on that
property. Get to the point.
Okay, so option B is what we're recommending, which is our current risk management building and the currently owned former Camarina building that we own, and we would move them in there temporarily for several years, 4 to 5 years, but we already own the property. The improvements be wake.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the
It
punchline.
will move here temporarily so that we can start Division 7 and make all those changes. When it's time that the board decides to build a permanent public defender facility, which is where the current Camarina property is, we'd have to then move them out of risk management and Camarina to one of these buildings temporarily for like a 12 months to 18 months while that building is built. Then they move back in and it's permanent. So this is not a permanent, we're not talking about these being permanent locations. This is temporary while construction is happening at their permanent building. So does that make sense to everybody on the board?
Yes,
Okay,
I
thank you.
understand it completely, yes.
All right. Okay, so we move them into the Camarena building and the risk management. They stay there for as long as we need to move them out of there when we need to build a permanent. And that by that time, we hope to have these buildings available so they can move here while we build them a permanent, or the board, or whomever is here at the time, builds them a permanent building, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
That's
Okay
fine.
with me.
That's fine. That will be the option we take.
Yes. Thank
Anything
you,
else?
Dave.
We would like you to make a
The
motion
option.
for
Oh, yeah,
option
well, we'll
B.
make a motion to that
I
effect.
move that we take option B for the risk, and use the risk management building and the former Camarina building to temporarily house our
Public defender.
public defenders, and then,
And later on, we'll discuss whether permanently reside.
yes.
I mean, not right now. I mean, I
Only
think
here,
it'll be some of the
strong
board, yeah. It might be some of the board, not me. Oh, but it could happen. I've been saying that
Tony's
for
still gonna
years.
be here.
I am
Yeah,
going to
Tony's
be here
still
going
gonna be
like,
here.
I don't like that.
I'll second Lynn's motion.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay.
Okay.
There's been a motion in a second to go ahead and take option B for the time being.
Good.
Okay? Is the public defender here? Do you want to say anything before we set you up? No? Okay. I like that. All right, so that is the motion. There is a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Okay, that's it. Those are your directions. Yes. No. I could do it for just, like purposes of having a conversation, but nah, it doesn't matter. All right, so that takes care of item number 4, is it? Number 4. 5? 5. Item number 5. Sorry, I missed the count. So we're now moving into the planning and zoning agenda. And the full legal description of the property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Dave.
We are moving into the consent calendar, which is not anything in the consent calendar, I think, but we got regular public hearing items, and we will make a full presentation on each of the following items, followed by separate discussion, public hearing, and action by the Board of Supervisors. The only item in the agenda is a Development Services Planning and Zoning Division public hearing rezoning case number 2203. Adrian Vega from Dallin Robbins and Associates, agent for Armando Puga, requested rezoning of a parcel 509 gross acres in size from Suburban Ranch 4-acre minimum to Suburban Ranch 2-acre minimum, assessors parcel number 754-64007, located at the northeast corner of County 18th Street and Avenue A and an 8th, Somerton, Arizona. Okay, staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Anson Lahosset, Senior Planner, presenting rezoning case 2203. The intent is to divide the property into 2 residential lots. The subject property is in red crosshatch. Parcels 5 and 6 are zoned SR2 and are improved with site-built homes. Parcel 8 is improved with a manufactured home. Parcel 41 is in agricultural production. Parcels 43 and 14 are improved with site-built homes. And parcel 2 is zoned SR3 and is in agricultural production. This is an aerial image of the subject property and surrounding area. Avenue A and County 18th Street are improved and paved. Within this area, there are large minimum parcel sizes, and much of the access is unimproved. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. This is an image looking north from County 18th Street at the subject parcel.
Mhm.
And an image at the northern part of the property where there appears to be an existing commercial use of truck parking, which is not a permitted use within the Suburban Ranch zoning district.
Mhm.
Staff received no comments from residents within the zoning notification area. MCAS Yuma requested an abrogation easement disclosure statement. Planning Commission recommended approval with subject to the attached performance condition and schedule for development. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the performance condition?
Sure, read it.
Within 60 days of approval by the Board of Supervisors, the owner, agent, or agent shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an abrogation disclosure statement, an infrastructure disclosure statement, an agriculture disclosure statement, and a schedule for development disclosure statement. Staff recommends requiring the schedule for development as originally written, if approved by the board, and the words in red would be the schedule for development as originally written. Would you, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the schedule for development as originally written?
And you mean because the red part is the one that the Planning and Zoning Commission didn't approve?
Correct, Mr.
So
Chairman.
that's fine. Okay, go. That is, are those the only two scheduled for development?
It was half of one,
okay,
2, and 3.
3, okay.
Over
The roadway is the thing that they took out.
the improvement, yes, of the access to the parcel.
The fourth one is an irrigation easement that, we always ask people to have
Yes,
access to.
they have to have irrigation.
They have to have irrigation. So the
Thank
second, portions of the second and third just deal with the easement and the improvements on that easement, right? The 20-foot easement and the chip seal to that easement,
Mhm.
right? And the board decided, the Planning and Zoning Commission decided to take those out, correct? But, I mean, if you listen to the discussion or if you read the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so no, you don't need to read them. I think we can see them there. Just leave them there for discussion purposes. I am going to open, any questions for staff? I mean, like definition of why? Do you have a brief explanation of why the Planning and Zoning Commission decided to take out the requirements for easements and access and a paved access to this property?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommended these conditions for schedule for development. The fire and building chief requested an emergency vehicle access be provided, and that is to allow for fire trucks to access the property and fight fires. The parcel is also within the PM10 non-attainment area, and there will be an increase of dust with this addition of a new parcel.
Okay. I understand that. The question is, why did they decide not to request it? Is it a cost factor for the owner? Is that what it boils down to?
Mr. Chairman, Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. The reason that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended deleting the second portion there of item number 1 and then the entirety of items 2 and 3 of the schedule for development was that the property already has access off of Avenue A and 1/8th Street. There is an existing easement dedicated to the public, and it's also improved with a gravel roadway.
Okay, so there's already access to it, and this is splitting the property into 2 different parcels.
Correct.
Do the easement work?
Now, are they going to use that dirt road though? Because if they're going to use that dirt road and it's in PM10, I have trouble with that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I've got allergies, so there's some existing roadway improvement along the, like I said, Avenue A and 1/8. It's improved to a gravel standard. They do use this roadway to access a property. Like I said, it's improved to a gravel standard.
Is that what we want? Or I thought we wanted chip seal.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that the recommendation was for a gravel road along the western boundary of the subject property. However, that would create a public easement and then a private ingress and egress adjacent to each other along Avenue and 1/8. And that is, again, the reason why the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended removing those two items under the schedule for development.
How does staff feel about that?
Staff is okay with the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Okay, all right, so let me open it up to the public. Okay, thank you, Maggie. That was important to me. I mean, it seems to me we've got sort of conflicting purposes. I mean, there's always this question after we approve one of this that people complain about the dirt and the fact that they're not improved. But in this particular case, I guess there's already access to this property. So
One side, right?
I guess that provides access to both parcels. And gravel roads are gravel roads. They're very common out there. I mean, chip seal is a little above that. I think chip seal, it's what some of those roads I think need to turn into chip seal, but
I read this.
instead of remaining as gravel.
I agree.
All right, so let's, is anybody in the public here that wants to address this? Are there any questions? I know Kevin's here and Jan is here, so you guys want to address any of these questions? I mean, if you don't, we don't. Well, I think we heard why not. I mean, expand on it. Why not a chip seal?
We've objected to the red is that there's an existing all-weather surface already existing. And so adding a 20-foot access easement, an improvement with a chip seal, you're building a road parallel to a road that's already there.
But is
So the existing roads and all-weather access is 2 lots. So I've asked for consistency, and consistency is we've allowed all-weather access. That's all that's required by the building department. It's all that's required by the fire department, and it's two lots. So that's why we're objecting to what's in red.
And then Kevin, I in most cases, if not all cases, but in most cases, I would agree that if you have an all-weather access point, there's no real need. But circumstances are moving us from that old standard of just having an all-access road to a road that doesn't produce any dust, which I know that a gravel road still produces a certain amount of dust when you drive on it. It is all weather. I mean, it probably stands better, but to me, chip seal is where we're going. And although it's only 2 lots and expensive, it is. Creating a second one, it's not really that logical, but I mean, I still, I'll let the process take place, but okay. So I just wanted to say that.
I have another question. What about access for the fire trucks and turnaround and all that kind of stuff? I know we've been requiring that on other properties, so.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, so that's a setup for this development. The driveway would be the turnaround, and that's acceptable on all cases.
Okay,
So it's all covered.
that is all covered already.
The objection here is building a road parallel to a road.
No.
The road's already there. It's not.
But chip sealing the existing.
This type of
It's not
road.
a chip seal road. It's a gravel road.
And
Again, even a chip seal road's gonna generate dust.
It's gonna
A
work.
little bit, yeah, a little bit. less.
2 lots. It's really 1 lot.
One additional lot.
But it.
So is it a standard that requires more? In our opinion, it doesn't.
All right, let's see what the engineering department has to say. Frank's right behind you. He's trying to beat you up with something, but I wouldn't do that.
Arturo Alvarez, Engineering Department. Actually, there's 2 options. Either on the public right-of-way, we improve it to county standards, which is a paved roadway, which is a 2/100, I believe. It's 26 foot wide with 8 foot shoulders. Or you ask for a chip seal on the public easement. We couldn't be able to chip seal the public right-of-way.
So this is public what, right away or?
There's public right-of-way along the west side, but I believe the report said that the owner to dedicate 20 feet parallel to that right-of-way in order to chip seal that perimeter of the property.
So we're asking for him to leave to give us a 20-foot right away, but not to chip seal it. Is that what we're saying?
I guess the initial was to chip seal the private easement within the property. But if the board wishes to use the right-of-way, then we would pave it. We would pave it, yes.
It would have to be paved.
Yes, it would have to be paved.
By us,
Not by the developer.
for 2 lots. That's always the final driving point. It's just cost.
Keep in mind, they're industrial, I believe it's commercial. It's not residential.
All right. Okay.
Is
go ahead.
it, it's commercial right now? It's zoned commercial? No, it's zoned residential and those heavy trucks aren't supposed to be there.
Right. Well,
Mr. Chairman, the current zoning is suburban ranch 4-acre minimum.
That's what I thought.
There is the storage of trucks that's taking place on the property. However, that use, as long as the property is 5 or more contiguous commercial acres, can continue to be used in that fashion. Once the property is split, then the use would have to be brought into compliance with zoning.
they know that, right?
Yes.
Kevin, you know that, right? Okay, you know that the moment we rezone it into 2 parcels, residential parcels, that use cannot be allowed anymore, correct? Okay, all right, it's a trade-off.
I have one more
No,
question.
sure,
Mr.
go ahead.
Why can't we just chip seal the gravel road that's there so that we cut down on the dust and leave it like that? Why is there not that option?
Mr. Chairman, the reason why that option does not exist is because there are existing dedications along Avenue A and 1/8, and any improvements to public right-of-way have to be done to county standards, which is pavement.
Pavement. Okay.
Yeah, that's a problem. That chip seal is not an option once we do it this way. It's got to be pavement, and paving, if we ask the owner to do that, it's just so expensive to do for, what they want to do, which is actually turn a parcel they're using for semi-commercial purposes into 2 residential parcels.
And sell them. Mhm.
And there's access points, and they can turn around, and they have an all-weather road there that can handle that. Isn't that basically it?
Correct. Mr.
Got
Chairman, currently, the property could be developed, could have 1 residence on it. If the zoning is approved, they can establish 1 additional residence.
Yeah, and if we leave it like it is, it will continue to be used the way it is. There is some gains in doing this and some losses. I think the losses have more to do with what we want as opposed to what is needed. It's just that, as far as I'm concerned, we're always looking for ways to chip seal, to pave,
Yeah,
anything. And,
we're.
it seems that if it was a larger development, I would be looking at, okay, well, you've got enough of a development to cover the additional cost, but this is a very small split. This is basically a split of a 4 into 2 to 2s,
Correct.
which allows us to be able to say, get those trucks out of there and build a house in there, build a couple of houses. I think.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
taking trucks out of there would actually reduce the amount of dust.
Definitely.
That's exactly right.
Well,
You're right.
it's a
I know.
storage area for trucks. It really, but anyway, I get it. Does anybody have any more questions?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, Mr. Dahl, you are opposed to everything in red?
Mhm.
What the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Mr. Chairman, the font in the presentation that's in red font is wording that the Planning Commission recommended deleting.
Yeah, that's right. So it's not him
Is
that
there
he wants it.
something
He
else?
liked not to have it, but that was the Planning and Zoning's recommendation. You ask a developer if they don't want to spend any more money than need to, and the answer is yes,
No, always.
always. So,
Chairman.
or 99% of the time,
No.
unless they have some ulterior motive that we can't figure out yet. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, let me close the public hearing. Thank you, Maggie, thank you. What, you got something?
No.
Nothing? Well, it's got nothing. So, it goes back to the board for their decision. It is my district, but, I want to see if anybody has any other opinions on this. No? Then I'll make a motion. We go ahead and approve it as approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is with those 2 items removed. Those
I'll
red.
second that.
Any more discussion? No more discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We then move into, thank you, guys. We'll move into discussion regarding legislative issues.
I know, that's good.
County administration discussion possible action regarding state and federal legislative issues, updates, which may include international issues, status of bills impacting Yuma County, timelines and composition of the legislature, redistricting and legislative. Tell them if they don't laugh, it would be better.
Yes.
Much better.
Yeah, especially when the staff goes out and they laugh together. That gives me a bad taste. So just tell them that whenever you get a chance. Is there anybody left here from the planning? Oh, yeah, there is. You tell them that. I'm going to get out. All right, thank you very much. Go ahead, Alex.
Chairman, members of the board, Alejandro Figueroa, Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs Director for Yuma County. I'll give you a brief update today on the legislature. State. So today marks the 113th day of the current legislative session. And since the legislature has passed the 100th day, the Speaker and the President have had to declare an extension for up to 7 days and have it voted on by the majority of members present to continue with the current legislative session. Last week, the House and Senate took shorter weeks with both chambers adjourning on Wednesday for a long weekend, and it is rumored that this week will be a short week as well to focus on budget negotiations. So far, the legislature has passed 220 of the 1,780 bills dropped this session, and the governor has signed 196 of them into law without any vetoes. Currently, there are 4 bills that are pending conference committee. Another 149 bills are pending rules in the opposite chamber, 112 bills waiting consent, 29 bills pending concurrence, third or final read. After May 9, state legislatures from outside of Maricopa County will see a drop in the daily per diem rate higher than their full per diem in previous years. This is because last year the legislature passed HB 2053 and the governor allowed it to become law without signature. The bill raised the daily rate for legislators from outside of Maricopa up to 100% of the federal per diem rate for the first 120 days, which is $220 instead of $60 a day, and 50% of the federal rate after the 120th day, which is $110 instead of $20. Members from Maricopa still receive $35 per day during the first 120 days and $10 for each day beyond the 120 days. The CSA shared with us some estimates for a couple of important county revenue streams for fiscal year 2023, like the Highway User Revenue Fund, also known as HERF, where Yuma County is forecasted to receive $14.5 million, according to ADOT. And then we also got estimates for Yuma County on payment on legal taxes, also known as PILT, for an estimated total of $4.1 million for fiscal year 2022 and $4.2 million projected for fiscal year 2023. On the federal level, last week, U.S. District Judge Robert Summerhays issued an order temporarily blocking the Biden administration from ending or winding down the implementation of Title 42 before May 23rd. The order is in effect for 14 days, and a hearing for the case is set for May 13. In the meantime, the Department of Homeland Security has recently shared details on a plan to manage the expected increase in crossings at the southern border after bipartisan pushback to the Biden administration's decision to end Title 42. The department says it will streamline processing to avoid overcrowding, increase sanctions for repeat crossers, and reach bilateral agreements with countries that migrants pass through on their way to the United States. Homeland Security has increased staffing by 600 employees, returned about 500 agents back to Border Security, and plans to increase Customs Border Protection custody capacity by 5,000 extra people per day by May 23.
Let me ask a question, because you said that the court cases, so that they wouldn't change it before May 23rd, and I think that the case is about not changing it May 23rd, right? And beyond.
Mr. Chairman, the idea for the Biden administration, as far as my understanding goes, is that they were trying to
do it before.
Right. Why? Well, they're going to downgrade it or ease it before May 23rd.
Talking about the court case. The court case is to not do it May 23rd, right? Not before, not on May 23rd. It's to extend it until whatever, right? Okay, got it.
And then moving on, with the assistance of Desiree Dutton, Yuma County Deputy Clerk of the Board, we have confirmed meetings with Congressman Stanton and Congressman Schweikert's staff for May 5th to discuss Yuma County's 2022 federal legislative priorities. I would also like to share with the board that I had the opportunity to hold a brief one-on-one phone call with Senator Sinema on April 27th to thank her and her staff for their continued support of Yuma County and to highlight the county's federal legislative priorities like the need for full and permanent funding for the PILT program, as well as the county's support for agricultural labor reform that removes the cap on 3-year H-2A visas. I also shared with the senator that the General Services Administration had recently dropped the funding commitment for the San Luis Port of Entry, San Luis One Port of Entry expansion project by about $30 million. She claimed she hadn't heard about it before, but would get her staff working with GSA right away.
Mr. Chairman, I could also ask if you would follow up with them and remind them that they, on the first funding go around, they removed 76 million from that first approved funding. So in total, that would be 100 million that has been removed in both funding considerations.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lyons, and this is just for clarification purposes, GSA removed $76 million
Yes.
on the first, okay.
Yes, and Chief Schwam was frustrated because it was done unilaterally outside of regular process, but that detracted from their ability to move forward. So if she can address that, that would be great.
We need to clarify that before you address it so that we are in the clear. The first time it was like $160 million, which was reduced by about $75 million. But that was the first time. The second time they approved the additional funds and made it a $300 million project. So that included the $75 million that had been removed into the new budget. In other words, they took the 75, put it back in, and added more, up to $300 million. But GSA found some way to take $30 million out of that approved budget that had been approved by Congress. So the issue is, where are they thinking they're going to put those $30 million? Because they're needed for the project in San Luis, and we'd like to know, how can GSA, basically change a congressional, appropriation that way, unilaterally, as it's been spoken.
And Mr. Chairman, to your point, even the congressman that I was with down with Chief Schwam were unaware of that fact, that GSA had removed that money from funding.
They're trying to, they're trying to. I mean, and that's what we need to do, make sure that the congressional delegation, senators and congressmen, realize that that is being done unilaterally by GSA without explaining what they're doing with the additional funds. Then, so we want to clear up.
Approved specifically for that project.
And obviously, Director Schwan is upset about it because he already thinks that 300 million is not going to be enough. So he's having a lot of heartburn about, where are they putting this money at? So we need to find out where the missing $30 million are, where GSA is placing the additional or the missing $30 million, and see if it can be put back into the budget where it should be. Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, I'll continue on. Senator mentioned that she was very grateful for Yuma County's letter of support for the Public and Border Security Act of 2022 that she and Senator Kelly co-sponsored. And as a follow-up to this bill, this piece of legislation, S4036, has been read twice at the U.S. Senate and was referred to the Senate's Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. If you like, I can remind you what this bill goes over. The bill prevents the federal administration from ending the Title 42 emergency authority until at least 60 days after ending the COVID national emergency declaration. After the end of the national emergency, the Department of Homeland Security would have 30 days to submit to Congress a plan to address the impacts of post-Title 42 migrant influx. Lastly, on the federal level, I would like to share with you that NACO's, Yuma County's NACO's High Performance Leadership Academy graduates, Claudia Ramirez, Yuma County Public Fiduciary, Samuel Mendoza, Administrative Supervisor for Yuma County's Public Works Department, Jesus Cervantes, Yuma County's Deputy Chief Information Officer, and myself, Alejandro Figueroa. So we concluded that 12-week program with NACO.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. That's good. And going back to Title 42 before you leave it, I honestly believe there's going to be a vote in the Senate and probably in the House regarding Title 42 as part of this process, support for Ukraine, the COVID-19. Somebody's going to bring it up, and they're going to vote on it. And so my expectations is that the administration, while wanting to do it, may not be able to do it if they don't get the congressional vote if they don't get congressional direction. But yeah.
I'll move on to the international front. President Joe Biden met virtually last Friday with his Mexican counterpart, President López Obrador, to discuss cooperation on migration, joint development efforts in Central America, competitiveness and economic growth, security, energy, and economic cooperation. And that will be my presentation to the board today.
Alex, thank you very much. You guys have any questions before we get into the budget? No? Thank you, Alex. Great job. Thank you. And congratulations to everyone that graduated from that high performance academy. It takes time, dedication, and it certainly makes for better employees. Thank you very much. The next item is a budget presentation. The County Administration Office of Management and Budget will hear a presentation summarizing the recommended fiscal year 22-23 budget for Yuma County. And Susan Thorpe, County Administrator, will have a PowerPoint presentation. Susan, 5-minute break. Hold it.
Good, thank you.
5-minute break. Okay. It's already been 1 minute, so it's 4 minutes. Órale.
missed Susan's comment.
No, she asked if we needed duct tape for the presentation.
Oh,
Nah,
Okay.
it doesn't matter. You have to grab the back. You know, she tried to take it. It didn't work out. Okay.
Good
so
morning,
let's put-
Chairman and
hold on, hold
members
on,
of
hold
the
on.
board.
Let me call the meeting back to order.
Yes.
Are we ready? If we're ready, let's call this meeting back to order, and we go to the discussion on the recommended budget presentation, and it will be led by Susan Thorpe, County Administrator.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Reyes and members of the board. This morning, I'm pleased to present the recommended budget for Yuma County for fiscal year 2022-23. The recommended budget is the result of months of work on the part of our staff in the Office of Management and Budget, Financial Services, Human Resources, County Administration, and the directors of the county and courts, departments, agencies, and offices. I want to thank all the staff involved for their hard work to date, particularly in light of the recent significant changes caused by the continuing but hopefully dwindling impacts of COVID-19 and the economic volatility we've seen lately. That said, Yuma County remains in strong financial position, and we're bringing forward a financially and fiscally sustainable budget for next fiscal year. The county identified a number of goals going into the 2022-23 budget process. We take a baseline approach, which means that we look at every expenditure from the ground up to determine the necessity for that expenditure and the appropriate funding level. We also carefully consider all new requests to ensure a balanced and responsible budget. I'm pleased to announce that the recommended budget includes employee pay increases of approximately 4%, consisting of a 3% scale adjustment for all employees and a half step in our system, roughly 1%, of a performance increase on the eligible employee's anniversary date based on meeting or exceeding expectations on their performance evaluation. The budget also includes estimated minimum wage impacts that will go into effect January 2023. Due to the efforts of staff and Yuma County Employees Benefit Trust Board, health insurance premium rates will remain flat with no increase to employee premiums. There is also no change in the employee share of dependent premiums. Also, an overall approach that we take each year is no increase in the county's tax rate. So we always have challenges in the budget process, and this year it included inflation and its impact on our ability to attract and retain talented employees, infrastructure and facility needs as reflected in the proposed capital improvement projects, legislative impacts that affect our use every year caused by federal and state legislative actions that directly increase county expenditures. And we also are continuing our focus on strong fund balances in all major funds. This chart summarizes all funds for which the county is responsible and appropriations as recommended compared to this year's budget. The general fund reflects an increase in reserves that we'll discuss in more detail later in the presentation. Special revenue funds include the jail district, health district, library district, and flood control districts, as well as all grant funds. The debt service is reduced due to the board's decision to save taxpayer dollars by paying off $10 million this year in debt. Capital projects include funding for major multi-year projects, including buildings for administration, health, and facilities, ITS, and public fiduciary. And internal service funds include $1.4 million for our vehicle replacement program. Our major fund of note is the general fund. Revenue categories are shown here. The largest three sources of revenue are shown at the top. County property tax at $35 million, shared sales tax at $31 million, and county sales tax at $18 million. As you can see, there's been a large increase in state shared sales tax of almost 12% above this year's budget. The state has been experiencing strong retail sales even through the COVID pandemic, and Yuma County is realizing its share of those revenues. The general fund uses are categorized as expenditures, which include personnel and related expenses, supplies and services, vehicles, equipment, and contingencies, transfers out to other funds, and reserves or fund balance. The decrease in transfers out, again, is due in large part to the board's decision to pay off existing debt of $10 million this year, so there's less ongoing debt service going into the recommended budget. Recommended fund balances for the general fund are shown here. It's important to keep a healthy fund balance in case of emergency or some unexpected reduction of revenues during the course of the year, so the county can continue to provide essential and necessary services to the community. For fiscal year 2022-23, we're recommending an additional 5% as a recession contingency for each major fund as a prudent approach to any financial or economic downturn that is currently being discussed at the national level. As shown in this chart, the general fund balance has increased steadily as planned over the past 7 years. As mentioned earlier, the recommended budget includes a proposed recession contingency of 5%. That is shown as an additional pink bar on top of the existing 20%. I'm trying to use the pointer. Hold on.
There it is.
So instead of being 20%, our reserves would be 25%. For next fiscal year, we're also recommending that funds available above the general fund balance policy level be used to pay for one-time expenses, specifically for major facility needs. And we'll talk about that in more detail. Cash toward the building. During the budget process, the budget review team carefully scrutinized requests for new positions for FY 22-23. Roughly 25 positions were requested for next fiscal year. The recommended budget includes a net increase of 16.980 full-time equivalent positions across all funds compared to the current year.
Before you leave that, explain to me briefly, how do you remove a person from, for example, the county administrator or the county attorney, for example, or information and technology? When you have a -1, what do you mean? You mean you took one from that department, or did you just not approve for one department?
Yeah, let me go forward in that. What are you referring to, a handout that you have?
Yes.
You
Yeah, the
get it.
personnel changes.
Right, okay.
The one you showed before this one, that one. How do you how do you have a -1, or housing or information?
Well, for example, in the county attorney's office, they actually eliminated a victim services position. So yes, they did eliminate a position. And sometimes the negative shows it's moving from one fund to another. So you may have a negative in one fund and a positive in another fund. So this is just at a high level net change. So another example of facilities management, that's a fund change. So this 5.5 move out of facilities management becomes a +5 in the jail district. So that's an offset, because we moved half of a maintenance person from facilities to the jail. So those are examples of how you switch, how the different changes can happen.
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
Susan. IT and.
I can go into more detail with actual positions, which might be helpful.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So shown here are the departments for positions that are being added or reduced to make up the net addition of 16.98. So this table is the first of 2 slides showing the actual position titles of the recommended positions that are either being added or reduced across all funds. So these are, on this page, you see all additional spots or positions. And then on this page, the second of the 2 slides, you show various negative. Some of them, for instance, in the Superior Court, you see these reallocation memos. That means the courts identified some needs that they had for these positions, and some they wanted to eliminate and they wanted to replace them with a different title. So that's a reallocation where you're converting one position to another. So you end up having the net same number of positions, but they end up being different titles of positions that better meet their needs. So Yuma County has a very innovative reallocation process, which allows those departments to make the changes that they need within their budget authority.
So innovative, we didn't understand it.
Any other specific questions?
No, I said so innovative, we didn't understand it.
So
yes,
this slide represents the personnel changes from 2 slides previously.
Yeah, it is one of 2. It is one of 2 slides. So here's the first slide. These are some of the names of these. Yes, I'm sorry. These are the names of the positions. And these are other positions that, so let me go back. So look at the bottom line here. It's 20.980. And you go to this and there's the -4. Okay. So here's our net 16.98.
All right. Okay. So explain to me how an information.
Those 2 categories, you get the net 16.9.
Yeah, well, okay. I get it. It's very innovative. I don't understand it. So I'm asking you a question. Okay, so the information and technology trainings Well, I'm on page, let's see.
Go back.
Um,
Go back to,
no.
Are these the different positions?
That one.
Are you on this?
The other one, go back
Oh,
one,
you're on.
or go forward, yeah. Okay, so if we have a new request, which is, for example, I'm gonna use the Housing Resident Opportunity Self-Sufficient Coordinator.
that was a reduction.
Okay, so that means we lost that position.
That position, the department requested to eliminate it.
Okay, but that's what I'm asking,
Yes.
right? So that one in
These are all based on the department
I'm just
requests.
trying to understand which ones are requested losses or which ones are just simply reclassification.
All of them are
BRTs
requested. All of them are based on requests. We don't do anything
So IT, for
unilateral.
example, IT had two, Superior Court IT, Information Technology Training Specialist. You had a -1 there, and then you have positive one next to it. And then you have a fund change of only 5,398. Was that a reclassification? Is that a move, a lateral move?
As you can see, it is 0.1, so it's 1/10 of a position.
Oh, I see.
They're simply changing the funding for 1/10 of that
I
position.
got it now. Yeah, now that I look at it with a little more detail, I realize there's a 1.0 and a 0.101.
Instead of a 1 point.
Yeah. All right. It's sophisticated. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
That's it. That's the county.
Cool. Let's go to the next one.
What?
Another question? Yes.
Okay, hold on. Lynn?
I have a question. Why is juvenile court requesting the, elimination of 2 probation officers?
That, you can ask that as well when we have the budget sessions with each director. But the juvenile court director has done an assessment of his department and recommended that they reduce the number of detention officers because of the
That's
because
to
of the
get those
reduction
people
in the
when they show
youth
up.
that are being
Yeah.
incarcerated.
Got
They
it.
don't need that many, right?
Okay.
All right.
Oh.
So moving on to capital projects.
Go ahead.
The
Keep going.
existing general fund projects shown here are recommended for continued funding in the FY 2022-23 recommended budget. And then 7 new general fund capital projects are also recommended for funding in the recommended budget. In special revenue funds, several capital projects are recommended. These include continuing projects in the highway user revenue funds for roads, as well as flood control, health, library, jail district, and the TACMA Improvement District. We're also recommending 2 new projects for broadband middle mile and the fairgrounds relocation using outside funds.
How are we going to
It's
do this?
important to keep a healthy fund balance in case of emergency or some unexpected reduction in revenues. The Health District and Jail District also include a recommended additional recession contingency of 5%, as discussed earlier.
I don't know. Where is it?
Oops. So just so you know, we also, in our recommended budget, we're including a health department commitment of $2 million from their fund balance toward the health department remodel and expansion project.
Okay.
The library district also is recommended to add a 5% recession contingency. But in flood control, we're not recommending a recession contingency due to the large expenditure this coming year of $20 million to be spent for the Smucker Park detention basin. Once that large project is complete, we'll be able to assess the funding level within the district to see if any changes may be needed in light of future projects at the current tax rate. So the recommended budget includes no increase in the combined property rate for all funds within the county. The tax rate in the general fund is recommended to remain the same as the current year. The library recommendation is to include an increase for the operations of 0.0037 cents, offset by a reduction in 0.0037 cents in debt service, netting a 0 change in the overall rate. And then the recommended budget includes the same tax rate as mentioned in the current year for the flood control district. So next I'll go over the assessed values and the general fund levy. So as reported by the county treasurer, overall net assessed values increased for FY 2022-23 by 5.69%. New construction increased very slightly by 0.1%. The recommended tax levy amount for FY 2022-23 is just over $36.2 million. The net increase of $1.9 million at the current tax rate will partially offset the annual debt service that will be needed for several major buildings programmed in the coming year.
Hey, oh. Is this going to require for us to have the truth in taxation hearing?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure, because I know that although we didn't change the rate, the tax collection is going to change. So that requires for us to have that, right?
Yes. This chart shows the general fund property tax levy over the past 15 years in the blue columns as compared to the allowable levy shown by the red line.
I want to make a point. There is no blue columns in this. There's only black and white. So, no, I know. But
Oh, you
the
didn't
one
get
you
a
gave
color-
us is
you didn't
saving
get a
in
color
color, I guess, in the
copy?
printer. So don't mention blue here, just say, okay.
It's okay.
Okay. The red line is not red, it's black, but.
Mr. Chairman, it's more expensive to print
I
in
know.
color.
I know. I had a member one time that was saving trees and he didn't want both sides, he wanted both sides printed. I don't know, maybe we should go back to that too, printing on both sides to save trees.
Then we.
As you can see, the board has adopted a levy that is well below the allowable amount for the last 11 years. As shown in this chart, for the current year, a median home valued at $194,000 paid an annual general fund property tax rate of $488. If that same home increased in assessed value by the average assessor's increase, which is capped by state law at 5%, the annual general fund property tax for that property would go up by $24.41 per year, or $2.03 in a month. So the steps shown here for our budget process includes today's presentation of the recommended budget. Later today and tomorrow, the board will hold budget meetings with all departments, agencies, and outside parties. At the end of tomorrow's budget session, the staff would like to hear from the board on any items you would like to change or add to the budget in preparation for bringing the tentative budget to you for your consideration on May 16th. We'll have the interactive spreadsheet and financial forecasting tools available tomorrow for the board to explore various options that you might want to consider.
That's tonight, huh?
You want to hear from all the departments first before you want to make any changes, I would imagine, anyway.
But the purpose of that tool is to be able to make those, and maybe not to make them permanent, but to have some sort of record those changes when they're happening, right? So what I'm saying is we're having hearings today, right?
And
the same
tomorrow.
as we're having tomorrow. You don't expect us to make notes and then at the end of the whole presentation tell you what we think, do you?
As you've done in the past, during the course of those sessions, you will be telling us those items you would like to consider. And then at the end of the presentation, at the end of the budget department presentations tomorrow, we'll have that spreadsheet so that you can walk through all the things that you would like us to change and
All
see
right.
what the impact is.
I went through this and I kind of already know what I want to change.
I will wait until later.
All right. Oh, excuse me.
You got a color copy? Mr. Chairman, she got a color copy.
We'll complete.
In this one.
Oh,
This is-
okay.
this is the
Go
one we
ahead,
got.
finish it up. You open that up.
The one we got when we met.
All right, so-
Going back to the presentation, on May 16th, the board will adopt the tentative budget, which is the maximum budget the board can consider prior to the final adopted budget. So the final adopted budget must be equal to or less than the tentative budget. So if there's anything you want to consider, you need to throw it in there for the tentative budget.
All right, let me just.
On June 20th,
Okay.
the board will conduct a combined budget hearing and truth and taxation hearing and adopt a final budget for fiscal year 2022-23, which goes into effect on July 1st. So this concludes our presentation, and we'll stand by ready to answer any questions.
All right, first question, hold on. First question is, everybody realizes, I hope, during this presentation, that once we approve the tentative budget, anything that will be done, any changes that will be done, we have to be within that tentative budget. In other words, you don't get a chance to increase it once you approve the tentative budget, even though you don't approve the final budget until later on. Everybody understand that? So we'll get a chance to listen to the different departments today and tomorrow. And whatever changes you may feel that you want to pursue, whether it's additional staff or less or more money or less money, you need to make those points at the time so that we can have staff record those for discussion at the end of whether we're going to, or discussion at the moment. Because if you want some changes and you don't have the support of at least 3 board members during this process, it may not happen. Right? I just want to make it clear. That's the process we follow. So if anybody listening to us, if any department wants to argue any of these points, you have an opportunity to do so later today and tomorrow. And the same goes for that board member, of those 4 members that want to, add something or detract from something, okay? Let's not generalize right now. Let's just wait until we see every department's budget and go through them, okay? Anything else? Susan, that was a very good presentation, very, very brief, very, very on point, very concise. Congratulations, you've learned a lot in the time you've been here. It is unfortunate that, some of that institutional knowledge may not be there, but everybody's learning as we go along. Thank you very much. She left, so we can move on. What's next? Events and calendar. She left, so we're going to go with Supervisor Lyons, who's been in.
You have one other presentation.
Oh,
Is that
you see?
right?
I
I'm
knew it.
sorry.
Oh, the
Please, yeah.
compensation? You're going to go to the
Please,
compensation thing?
Yes,
Aren't you
compensation.
going to wait until, we have a department?
No, we've done that in the past, but it kind of combines HR with general county stuff. So we'd like to have Felicia separate those two. This is really more countywide.
We'll do it when you come back. Well, it's not in the agenda. We can open it up and
Presentation.
that's up to the chairman.
I just forgot. Yes.
I don't, look, if you're going to take 10, 15 minutes, it's fine. If you're going to take more than that, I'd rather you do it this afternoon. What do you want?
I would take no more than 10 minutes.
Come in. Be my guest.
May I please go ahead? Yes. Good morning, Chairman Reyes and members of the board. As you'll see,
I just want to warn you, you're opening up a Pandora's box, right?
I did.
Right now, okay?
I
When
did.
you talk about compensation this quickly before we even start.
well, you'll see my topics for compensation. It's
I
really
see.
to start addressing the reclasses that the county has or judicial merit system, the on-call duty pay, paid time off, and vacation buyback, employee benefits with the loan repayment assistance program and the tuition reimbursement program. As you'll know that we go through a reclassification process. Through that reclassification process, directors and or elected officials submit their reclasses in the month of December. We study them all in January and in February to present them to the county administrator for the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors during the budget process. The individuals have to have been performing that job, the additional responsibilities, for at least a year, and that it's reflected in their performance evaluation, and they're fully aware of what that next job will be, so they have a true idea of what they're going to be reclassified to if the board approves for that following fiscal year. This year, we had 9 requests that were submitted to Human Resources. 8 are being recommended. As you, for that reason why there's instead of 9 total is because one of the reclassifications actually had an internal promotion, so that individual was promoted. So now that position that person was hoping to be reclassified to, they were promoted and they were no longer reclassifying that individual. You'll see that there was no request submitted from Superior Court. We also did not have any requests from the Sheriff's Office. Our county physical impact, it's broken down to you by general fund, health grant, and health district with the total amount of $34,487. Our on-call duty pay, we bring this information to you yearly. The last time that we presented to the board with regards to a change with the on-call duty pay, which right now our current rate is $1, it was last evaluated in July of 2018. So most likely in 2023, we'll be presenting to you because we work with all other counties to see where everyone's at, and we are still in line with what's similar to them, but most likely we'll be presenting some to you next year with a possible change. Our current budget for on-call DDP at this time is $53,000. As it's stated in our performance, in our personnel rules and regulations, it's our PTO and vacation buyback. Each year, we need to present to the Board of Supervisors the opportunity for you to make the decision if you would like to approve the PTO or vacation buyback. As you'll see there, that's the eligibility requirements. It is required that all employees have to at least taken 40 hours. Now, do they have to take 40 hours immediately? No, throughout the whole year. And that has to be done by the December 31st, so to ensure that that individual would be eligible, and as well as they would have had to receive a meets or better on the evaluation. You'll see on the following slides, this is what occurred in 21-22, what impact it had to the general fund, all other funds, and the total amount that was expenditure overall was $327,795. We had projected. This is with a maximum of 20 hours with a minimum of 5 hours. we have projected that we would utilize 456,621. Overall, we had a 71.8% estimated use for that whole process. What? Yes, sir.
Wouldn't you think it's something, well, it could be related to just the pandemic and people, actually staying home a lot?
For the use of reasons why that they may not have actively participated. So as you might say, there might have been some individuals who weren't able to participate because they had utilized all of their time. There were other individuals that have other predetermined reasons why they would like to keep their time for medical reasons, as well as.
Alicia, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
I shouldn't have interrupted. We do have blue and everything in this one, and I told you keep it brief, and I'm asking questions, so go ahead, finish up.
As you'll see in FY 22-23, we're displaying here for you if the board was to approve a maximum of 20 hours with a minimum of 5 hours, what that total cost would be to the funds, which would be $321,000. And if you were to select maximum of 40 hours with a minimum of 5, it would be $639,290. In our employee benefits, we have our loan repayment assistance program for our LRAP. It is a great retention tool for our attorneys. We currently have 13 participating attorneys representing the Office of the County Attorney, Public Defender, Legal Defender. They receive about $1,500 per quarter. The total estimated cost for FY 21-22 is $22,149. The reason for the minimal cost is because, as you're aware of the pandemic, we did not have to make a payment to our plan. So because of that did not allow individuals to submit their receipts showing that they had paid out for that previous year. So right now our total budget for FY 21-22 is $60,000. We're just asking for that to continue. And then finally, our tuition reimbursement program. We thank the board. Last year you approved. We were previously at $50,000. You had approved an additional $20,000, which brought our budget up to $70,000. We have 43 participants currently. Year to date, we've paid out $51,000. Year to date, we're expected to pay out at least $73,000. That is based on what we're aware of with regards to submissions. We've had success with 3 master's degrees, an associate's, 1 HVAC certificate, 1 HVAC chemical handling certificate, and in this year's budget, we're asking for an additional $25,000 to bring us up to $95,000 in the tuition reimbursement program. With that, I would ask if you have any questions for me.
You came right under time. One question.
Yes.
I'm not privy to the meetings that you have with different board members to discuss salary, but my perception of it was that I was going to recommend a 5% flat increase. Was that reflected in the budget, or is it still part of the process?
The recommended budget is as we presented it to you in the sessions.
So it is
and
a
so
4.
your thoughts on changes to that or not on anything are
They're
not
not as
reflected in the
registered, so you didn't get a consensus from the board at any time. All right, good. I'm just warning everyone. I will be asking for a 5% flat increase for employees, and I hope you guys will consider that. But I don't want to get into discussions about that right now, but they brought this human resource stuff in, so. Okay, any questions on anything that was presented? If not, then we'll go on to the reports, to the individual reports. Thank you very much. We'll discuss this human resources presentation during the afternoon session. Any Supervisor Pancrase, would you begin this process of reporting everything and anything you did during the last 2 weeks, other than going to Spain?
Oh, no, not going to.
Nothing. I don't want to report about you going to Spain.
No, okay.
That will be for Supervisor.
I attended the Education Hall of Fame dinner, and my sister-in-law was recognized at that awards dinner. I went to the budget briefing. I went to CSA Executive Board meeting and their Board of Directors meeting. And it looks like I'm driving to Phoenix on Wednesday and meeting with some legislators about our CSA, our county priority. I attended the Secretary of State's executive level elections tabletop exercise in Phoenix. It was very informative. I learned a great deal. I attended Bob McClendon's, Representative Bob McClendon's, County Supervisor Bob McClendon's celebration of life. I met with Jonathan Herzog and his wife from the Salvation Army. I attended some of the meetings for the providers for Arizona at Work. Some of them overlap with my YMPO meeting, so I attended my YMPO meeting and I met with Susan.
All right.
Yeah.
Supervisor Lyons.
I went to Spain. No.
Prior to leaving to Spain,
Oh,
I
okay.
hosted Representative James Comer, who's the ranking member for oversight here in Yuma, to consider border conditions and what might be done to change that. There were several members of the federal delegation that were there with him that day.
Yeah,
And since then, I've had the opportunity to receive another invitation from them to continue representing this region, talking about some of the challenges that we face here on the border, especially with Title 42 imminently going away. As part of my absence at last meeting, I met with members of the Harvard Housing Board where we discussed residential construction inflation and some of the challenges in that industry, what we're looking at regionally, and what we'd be looking at as a state as well, and doing a deep dive on how that might affect our economy.
Sobering thoughts. Supervisor Simmons?
Had a meeting with the Walton Town Administrator. Also attended I guess it was a meeting. I was asked to come down and talk to the staff at Welton Mohawk School. Had a budget meeting. Also met with the Planning and Zoning Commissioner, discussing some issues that are going on out in the foothills, trying to figure out what we can do with that. Had the honor of reading the proclamation at the Victim Services service event the other day. Thank you, John, for that. Met with Gail, referenced some of her issues she's having over there at BNC. And just want to remind everybody that the governor declared today Peace Officers Memorial Day, and flags are at half staff. And that's it.
Supervisor Porches?
Last week I attended a YMPO meeting, and I also met with Senator Kelly's team, their staff, and we talked about water and infrastructure.
Okay, I attended the Great Yuma Port Authority meeting, I think it was last week, pretty interesting one. I also attended that Senator Kelly Water Rights Forum that they had over there. I read the proclamation and opened up the Fair Housing Seminar, Symposium they had in Yuma County. And I read that proclamation too. So it's been a busy week. I did not go to Spain. I did not, go to Spain, but
Somebody had to go.
my heart was in there.
You went for
Work.
business, not for pleasure. So
I did not meet with anybody from Harvard either, but it was close. I had someone from. I went to a GM theatrical band playing in San Luis, but
Mr. Chairman, I am going to share these slides with Susan so she can.
All right,
share them
Susan,
with the
you're
board.
next.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I attended the Chamber of Commerce board meeting to report on county activities, the YSIPTA Financial Sustainability Committee meeting, as well as the board meeting. We also, our Financial Sustainability Committee met with AWC briefly regarding their YSIPTA financial obligations, and we're going to be meeting with them again next week. The Regional Transportation Sales Tax Group, consisting of all the cities, the county, and the YMPO. I attended the ICMA Conference Planning Committee on Tuesday and Wednesday, April 26th and 27th, and the DYPA board meeting, the status hearing for the Gila Electronics claim regarding broadband. And this Friday through Monday, I'll be attending my granddaughter's wedding in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Anything else, guys? If nothing else, we'll recess until 1 p.m. to go over the budgets with the different departments. Thank you very much, and see you at 1.